Success. Want to know more about it? Want to find out about how a local Cairns man beat the odds? Want to be inspired? Well, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Northern Vibe. Thanks very much for tuning in. If we've never met, I'm Matthew Maloney, host and founder of Northern Vibe. We're about sharing stories. This is where curiosity is cultivated. This is where discussions are held with interesting, informed people. I'm really happy to say that I've got David Hudson on. Dave's going to be all embarrassed about me getting all fanboy about him, but I don't care. I'm a great fan of David, have been for ages. Laugh it up, Hudson. I'm a great fan of David, have been for ages. And we're going to find out about his relatively unsung achievements. I mean, he's been worldwide and everything, but like I'm kind of surprised he's not more of an icon here in Cairns. We're going to find out what drives this proud Queenslander. He's a proud Uruman Western Yilindji man. But before we go any further, I just remind everyone, please like and share. Northern Vibe, we're growing, but we need your help to keep up momentum. To Cairns locals, David Hudson needs no introduction. But as we have a growing base of listeners down south and to the west, so for those unacquainted with him, I'm going to do a brief intro. But first, we always have a mention in dispatches to a charity that are doing great work. And this week, I actually have the host and founder of the charity that I want to get on. So big shout out to the Golden Octopus Foundation and hello to Keely Johnson.
Hey Mick, how you going? Oh Matt, sorry.
That's okay. Mate, welcome to Northern Vibe. And can you tell us and our listeners about Golden Octopus?
The Golden Octopus is the 8 Arms of Childhood Cancer, and we try and keep the kids at home rather than having to fly away and, spend 12 months on end with their radium and chemo. So we're trying to implement telehealth and regional nurses in the rural areas.
Wow. Now, I love your Golden Octopus. I really, really encourage people to jump on the website and have a look. But you've got to tell me, why does your Golden Octopus have a black hat?
So Lee Kernighan's our ambassador. So him and myself wear a black akubra. And and it also is sun safe.
Okay. Well, look, you're a very talented singer yourself, and actually I'd love to get you on. So we'll talk about that when we're off air. Before I let you go, what can people do to support you?
You can jump on my Instagram, which is Keely Johnson Official, or you can jump on the Golden Octopus Foundation website, Facebook page, or Instagram page.
Keely, thank you very much for coming on and telling all of our listeners about your excellent charity. I do encourage people to jump on board there. And mate, if I could just get you to hop on out.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Looking forward to talking to you, and I'm sure all of our listeners are too. Now, to David Hudson, an edit from his website. David Hudson's life reflects his life, love and belief in Australian Aboriginal culture. David has travelled extensively through Australia and the world, including Europe, Asia, Oceania and the United States. He promotes awareness of Australian Aboriginal culture and tradition wherever he travels. David has a diverse career and is internationally renowned as a musician, artist, entertainer and presenter. His work is considered contemporary, yet it has a very definite traditional influence. That's from his website. And David is a local boy come good. He's one of us. He's a North Queenslander and he has talent, not in just one area, incidentally. Yes, he's famous for the Didge, but besides music, he paints, makes artifacts, is a TV presenter, has spoken at TEDx events. That's a pretty impressive resume. And I'm sure interviewee of Northern Vibe is going to go on that long and extensive resume as well. But he's also a sportsman, teacher. He was a pest controller. He's a husband and a father. But like I said, the thing that I really like about him is he's a North Queenslander. He's one of us. And that's what makes, for me at least, his story so compelling and inspirational. He did it. All right, to tell you a little bit more about him, he was educated at a Seventh-day Adventist primary school, finished at Cairns High, went to Alice Springs and spent some time working on the railways. I'm so jealous. Every boy likes playing with trains there, like something I've always wanted to do. Then he worked at an Indigenous medical centre, played rugby, was a pest exterminator, went to Perth Teachers College and then followed his calling into the arts. Now, his career and discography would take too long to outline. We'll be here for another 10 minutes. We'll review most of that through the interview. A couple of really quick highlights. He did world tours with Yanni, the American Greek composer, who was huge in the 90s. Andre Rio stole Yanni's shtick, if I can kind of make that observation. I'm great fans of both of them, but I think that's kind of true. David was in the 1996 movie The Island of Dr. Moreau. He acted alongside the great Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer. Now, I know the viewers can't wait to hear about the behind the scenes, because there's not so secrets about the movie set. And we will, dear listeners, we will. David's promised me he's going to spill the beans. But first, David, thank you very much for coming on board.
Matt, there you go, mate. Yeah, no, I'm very happy. And this is your first show, is that correct?
It's not my. It's my first show that's not specifically not about the new state, because just by quick way of explanation, the genesis of Northern Vibe was through the New State organisation. We're proud and unashamed promoters of a new state, but we built up a little bit of a fan base, and we built up a number of people here, and I've had some people encourage me to keep going, and I noticed there's a bit of a gap in the market for interviews like this, where Cairns people want to find out about Cairns people and the talent that lives in places like Canimbla, I believe you live, or Whitfield. No, it's Whitfield, isn't it?
No, Whitfield, yeah.
Whitfield. So, chap lives at Whitfield. He's one of us, and he's travelled around the world. People want to know about it. Now, I've listened a lot to your music, and I'm going to. So here we are. I've listened to those. I listened to these CDs, and they're signed copies. So I was really kind of thrilled to get them. And also the wonderful Indigenous myths and legends and stories that you've done on other CDs.
Yeah.
And I came to realise, David, it might seem an unusual leading question, but I came to realise you have a deep love for this country, don't you? Despite all of its imperfections, you really love Australia and you really love North Queensland. What do you love about it?
Look, absolutely. Look, Australia is it's the last frontier. You can go to Europe, you can go to America, you can go to the northern parts, etc., etc. One thing that we've got to be very proud of in this country of ours is that we come from a country that has the world's oldest living culture. It has survived countless generations. It's in our own backyard. And we also have to realise that there's more to this country than just blonde-head surf boys, Kit Kat, and Aussie rules. So there's a culture in our own backyards. We just got to grasp it properly, I remember making my first overseas trip to California in 1985, and I was on stage in Union Square, Marin County. Did a gig at Bonaventure. I went to La Jolla, San Diego. At these places, I was absolutely gobsmacked that people over there were absolutely very supportive of who I was as an Australian and as an Indigenous Australian. So when I was flying back on the plane, I said to Cindy, my wife, I said, look, I think it's important that we write a letter to the Education Department, because there's room here to start touring schools. And we did that, and it was done specifically for a reason. It made me realise that people overseas cared and showed a lot more, that they were a lot more supportive in my culture rather than the average Australian. So I did that, and I toured from the tip of Australia right down to the border of New South Wales, and did all those little country towns, and did a 1-hour show. And then in '86, I met John Judy Freeman, and between the four of us and two partners, we formed what's still known as the Jabberguy Dance Theatre. In Cairns is now known as the Jabberguy Cultural Park. But that was 33 years ago. So Jabberguy is actually in the Guinness Book of Records as Australia's longest theatrical show. So it's not bad for a bunch of young fellas that that's still going to the day. I remember in 1988, it was bicentennial. We had the incredible opportunity of being working for Australian tourism, and we were there after Paul Hogan's Shrimp on the Barbie, and we got to tour wherever. And that was probably those years that I reflect back on now, and going to Switzerland, Italy, Germany, Austria, wherever, and some of those people I've met 33 years ago, we still stay in touch to the day. That's I love that about people. You know, they want to reach out. They want to be part of it. They've come to Australia and they've now got a grasp on where I come from. And as you said before, I'm a local, homegrown lad. Yeah, most definitely. I did all my growing up in freshwater. You know, swimming at Freshie, swimming in Camarunga, going to Diana Gorge, going down to Babinda. Going the ability to go to Yarrabah with cousins and go fishing, go to Green Island, and go to the rainforest. And on my mother's side, I'm a Western Yalanji descendant. That's up towards Mount Carbine, Quincan Rock Art, Laura, northwest. And on my father's side, that's out towards the Savannah Way. So that's Undara, Georgetown, Mount Surprise, Tullaroo Hot Springs, which our corporation owns, Forsyth, and in that region, we're very, very famous for lava tubes, hot springs, the gem fields, and Aboriginal culture. So it's what's called geo-clustering. So me being in tourism, it's important for people to realise that when you come to Cairns, there's more to the north than just reef and rainforest. You can go to the west and experience another world out there. So I invite you out there to see my traditional homelands.
Oh, mate, and that's absolutely fantastic. Just as a quick note, there was a bit of a tech issue there. Some of it was me. I do apologise for the fact that you saw me while David was talking for the first minute, but I've got over that. I'm just going to leave it on this view now. And David, I can indicate that I've spent a fair bit of time up in Cape York, only a little bit of time up around Forsyth and out in those areas. But I can say that I've had a couple of American friends who've come over and I've plugged it. I've sent people up the Cape. I've gone, reef, rainforest, but really you can kind of do it all. Well, not really, but like a week is enough in kind of Cairns. Like get your backside up into places like Laura, get your backside up into these, this beautiful country.
And that's so true. You can fly in from Brisbane, Sydney, wherever you want to come from. Cairns is a destination where you want to come and use it as a base. You can go out to the reef, you can go to the rainforest, you can go to Port Douglas, you can go to Cow Bay, go up over the range to Wudjal, up towards Cooktown, Hopewell. And I always say to TT&Q that it's about the 3 R's: reef, rainforest, rock art. And the other R is Indigenous culture. Not just under the Aboriginal culture, but the Torres Strait Islander culture as well. And that's what I'm saying. It's in our own backyard, so we should be very, very proud of that. And I'm very fortunate, and I don't use the word fortunate very lightly. I'm very fortunate that I grew up in Cairns, where I had the ability to swim and go camping. And back in the day, you could go hunting, etc., etc., etc. But I've got the ability now, even in 2020, whilst COVID's around, to still go bush and go and look at rock art, go and write a song, go and sit in rock caves where my mob used to, where they lived for 40,000 years, 50,000 years. And, for me to be sitting there where my mob sat prior to me being there, I don't take that with a grain of salt. I greatly appreciate that. And anybody that I take out on my traditional country, I want them to experience that. I want them to see rock art. I want them to swim in the Gilbert River or the Ironsley River, Elizabeth Creek. I want them to catch black brim, and go and cut your own spear, go and cut a didgeridoo. You strip it back yourself. I'll help you refine it, etc., etc. And as you can see, I've got a great array of didgeridoos in my music.
Absolutely.
I make didgeridoos. So in my own personal collection, I guess I would probably have about 80 didgeridoos.
80?
Yeah, 80 didgeridoos. And,
wow.
I've got, I've got, there's I'll take a look at a walk here.
Let's do it. Let's do this. I knew this would be a great interview.
There's all my guitars. I'd probably have about 14 or 15 guitars. What you see over here is leftover CDs that I had from years ago. Well, whether you buy CDs these days I don't know, but there's boxes and boxes of CDs.
Well, where can people purchase them, David?
They give you a order, you know. I'll send to you one at a time. Come into my place.
Okay.
And, you know, buy it off me, you know.
So for any listeners out there, David has a magnificent website. He's got all of his contact details on there. So make sure you jump on the website. And it's not just the sales contacts that you'll get there. It's actually a really good website to have a look at. And I noticed there's some other really cool things on the wall there too, mate. Let's talk about the artifacts.
Oh, well, look, I've got didgeridoos here. I've got Jalu. That's a Jalu didgeridoo. Jalu is a ditch maker for Yotha Yindi. He's a wealthy old man. Oh, when I say wealthy, wealth of knowledge. So I'm very, very fortunate that I've got a Jalu signed didgeridoo.
Oh, look at that.
This is my Doppy up there. This is a Gublathalan didgeridoo from Mornington Island, Larnell country. I've got didgeridoos from my cousin Lewis. This is a bamboo that was given to me when I was in Japan. It's a hollow tree, so that's given to me. That bamboo is 400 years old. You know, these are people that were given to me like 40 years ago. Like I've now collected from Bambili country, Beswick, Catherine, another Jalu. I've got a David Blanasi didgeridoo down there. Those boxing gloves there were given to me by Brad McCarley, who's an Aboriginal judge. They're signed by Barry Michaels, Jeff Fennick, and
Wow.
And Scott.
That's a pretty cool man cave going on right about there.
Hey?
That's a pretty cool man cave. That is a pretty cool man cave right there.
I've got a little tiny little didgeridoo there.
Wow.
I don't know. But this is my music room. So, and look, can you believe this here was done by a bloke called Andrew? You know, Andrew made me sit because it was for the Archibald Prize. He didn't win it, but he gave me this painting. So now I've got this painting of it's ridiculous. It's in my room. Look, I've got nice spears up here.
Wow.
Oh, hang on, I want to show this over here. This is actually when I took Martin Brando up to my mum's house in Coranda.
No way.
So there's
No
Brando.
way.
I got to work with him for like 3 months when this whole of Dr. Moreau was happening. And he rang me probably 1 or 2 weeks into his shooting. And he said to me, he said, no, that's David Hudson. I said, I'll fix the phone. He said, g'day. And he said, oh, is that David Hudson? I'm going, yeah. He goes, hey, you going, mate? He says, hello. I'm going, hi. I said, who is it? He goes, oh, it's Marlon. How are you? I'm going, who? He said, it's Marlon Brand. I was like, seriously? And he said, yes, I've been given some of your music, and I'm just ringing to say I like your music. I'm going, oh, thanks so much. I said, so whilst I had him, I said, look, would you be interested in going to see my mum and my family in Coranda? And he said, absolutely. So within 2 or 3 weeks, I was taking Brando and Carolyn and Abra, up to my mum, and we spent the whole day up there. We made him I made him a didgeridoo, gave him some boomerangs. I painted his face, and
Mate, because I got to. That is amazing. You've jumped right ahead because I don't overthink them, but I do like to have a little bit of structure because my brain isn't all that good. So I do have to have a couple of kind of questions. But you've touched on something that during my research I found out that you really did end up pretty good mates with him, and you were in contact with him too after he left. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, myself and Timura Morrison. Tim Morrison was he was Jack the Muss, once the Warriors.
Oh yeah.
So Tim and I got on with Marlon extremely well, and because we weren't any prima donnas and that sort of thing, and that's what he liked about it. He just liked to go down to La Fettuccini's and have a meal there, and he liked it because as he explained to us, he says there's no way possible I could go down in Los Angeles and have a meal without being in a private room. Whereas at Lafette's, for example, he'd go there and then Aussies being Aussies would just let him be, you know, let him eat his meal and don't hassle him at all. So he enjoyed that because I remember the very, very first day when he arrived in the Cairns, a mate of mine, Lawrence Woodward, he was given the job of picking up Marlon Brando. And John Frankenheimer, the director, said to Lawrence, he said, Lawrence, get out there, go and pick up Mr. Brando and take an umbrella and make sure you take a gun. And Lawrence said, what the hell do I want to take a gun for? He goes, you got to take a gun because you never know. This is Mr. Brando. And Lawrence said, mate, we're in sleepy little Cairns. No one here would care that it's Marlon Brando. And Lawrence is right. He came through the airport. No special privileges for Brando. He just came through like everybody else. Lawrence picked him up, took him to the Matson Plaza, and that's where he stayed for 2 or 3 months.
Mate, what sort of bloke is he? What sort of bloke was he like?
Well, look, I knew of Marlon Brando's reputation and presence long before the ultimate Dr. Bro, and I'd always had a lot of time for people like him because he was a great supporter of Indigenous cultures worldwide.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you can remember that.
The American,
He was given an academy. Well, you know, he didn't want to go up there himself. He set up, a Native American female, and she collected the award, and that's the sort of bloke he was. And when he was in Cairns, that's what he wanted to do. You know, he didn't want to just sit in the Matson Plaza and watch TV or do all the touristy things. He wanted to go and actually meet local people. So hence why I reached out to him and I took him up to Crando, went to a place called Crower where all my relatives live. Oh, yeah. And told my mum that I was bringing up Marlon Brando, and she was like, yeah, okay, well, whoever. She's met a lot of people in her time. So Marlon Brando is just Marlon Brando. And I just said to her, I said, Mum, this bloke has lived in Pepieri, Tahiti, so he's used to eating the same tuckers that we eat, be it fish and grated coconut, cassava, taro, rice, and all that sort of tucker. And so she cooked it, and he was very laid back. He was lying on the grass with my uncles. Because my uncles were boxers back in their day, and they were middleweight and welterweight of Australia, Harry Grogan and Harry Grogan.
Oh,
and they were my mum's younger brothers.
I wasn't aware of that. And I researched this pretty well. Oh my God, there we go.
So yeah, my mum's brothers were boxers, as were a lot of other male boxers that were coming through the ranks. And you've also got to realise that these people, when I say these people, my uncles and aunts, they were raised on a mission where you were told what to do and what you can't do. But boxing was one of those sports where if they could get exempted from the mission, they would take up boxing as a profession. And so my two uncles were taken to Sydney, and they fought at the Jack Rennie boxing club, and they also did the circuit with the Jimmy Sharman boxing tent back in the day. So for them to be boxers, that was a big thing.
Brando would have loved that. He would have loved that, hanging around with those blokes. But mate,
they were over there just talking about what it was like for him as a blue-eyed, blonde-haired bloke from Missouri, and he'd asked them questions about what it took to be an Indigenous person growing up in Australia, and they more or less said, well, these hands here are what took us through to be who we are today, because we had to fight for our rights. They made him realise that it was only in 1967 that we as Indigenous people could vote in this country of ours. I was born in 1962, so for the first 5 years of my life, I was still under the Flora and Fauna Act.
Well, that was federally in South Australia. In Queensland, people couldn't vote, but in some places in South Australia and I believe Victoria, that people were allowed to vote in the state elections. But that was, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
But thank God too. I mean, to give to give sort of like, and I'm actually mixed race, although I don't do the whole, and I get no problems, but like I am who I am, and I think, Dave, I think you and I are kind of a bit like that, that way. One thing that does make me kind of not proud, but you look at, I too have traveled in America, and I've got some really good African-American friends over there. One of them's an ex-copper, actually. He's an amazing man, went through Hurricane Katrina or everything, the nightmarish stories that he tells. And we had a very brief discussion about affairs over here. And he said kind of, well, what's it like, Matt? And I said, well, I'm not really Indigenous, so I'm not in a position to kind of say. But I'll make this point. I said, we've got really, really terrible suicide rates. It genuinely breaks my heart. Like that, just honestly, I kind of, gets me so upset. I kind of don't like talking about it. The murder rates are just really, really sad. Health is a problem. Education, literacy, all of these things are a really big issue. But there is one redeeming thing that makes things very, very different from the African-American context, because he was kind of looking for that. Like, is it the same? Is it different? And I said, well, there's some things that are the same, some things that are different. And I said, what happened is we looked at this situation and went, oh my God, that's terrible. What are we going to do about it? We're going to vote. We're going to have a referendum. Like it didn't require people throwing stuff at each other. It didn't require any of that sort of stuff. The nation's conscience was pricked, rightfully so.
Absolutely. And the Australian people had to vote yes because we were still being dictated to, and in some cases, Indigenous people are still being dictated to on the communities. You can't, nobody wants to see alcohol the way it is.
Yep.
But realistically, if they let our communities make the rules for our communities, that's fine. But we're being dictated to by the suits down south. And so we've still got major issues on the communities.
Oh, and there are so many things like that. I've been speaking to Alan Clough about this, and actually that would be a great interview. Maybe I should get you and him together one day, because he did. He's one of Australia's actually, and almost definitely Queensland's leading epidemiologist. And because alcohol and drug use rates, in the Cape are at technical epidemic proportions, it's something that he, and so suicide, and has been for many years, he studied it, and he gave his findings to the Senate committee when they came through a few years ago. Yep. He's I think you would enjoy your conversation with him, David.
Sure. I talk to anybody. I'm talking to you, so
yeah, and that's scraping the bottom of the barrel right there, mate. Bottom of the barrel.
But as I say, I'm a local. So when you rang me and said, "Oh, would you do it?" I'm going, yeah, why not?
Yeah,
no problem.
And I got to tell the listeners too that they're going to laugh at this, because like I kind of got fanboy. I was like, really? Like, you do that for me? And you're like, you're kind of like really dismissive. You're like, yeah. And I'm like, no, really. And it's kind of like, and I saw you shaking your head going, who is this idiot? But mate, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you came on board. I really am. And I knew this interview would be good. Mate, tell me about your wife and family. Like, you had all these opportunities to move overseas and be successful over there, and you clearly, homegrown, good far North Queensland boy. Tell us about your wife and family.
I can live anywhere I choose. Brisbane, Sydney, Wagga Wagga. My wife comes from a little place called Erie Park, which is sort of in the middle of the Riverina, surrounded by West Wyalong, Temora, Griffith, Wagga Wagga. So small town, 500 people, sheep country, cropping. So her brother still works the farm. He grows wheat, canola, grains, etc. But Cindy and I met in Alice Springs. So I left home in '79, and I went all the way to Alice Springs because I just wanted to go out and venture into the big wide world. So I went to Alice, played rugby league, got a job as a health worker, met Cindy within a year, and she was a nurse. She worked in theatre, and her girlfriend's boyfriend played the same team as I. So we had a friendship, and then next year we'll be together 40 years.
Yeah.
And so we
one
decided to leave.
one thing your wife and my wife share in common is bad taste in men, and thank God for all the women out there with really, really bad taste in men, because like I'd still be sitting in some dance hall somewhere staring at the corner. But mate, your daughter's quite accomplished too.
Yeah, so hang on, we came back to Cairns. I wanted to improve my grade 12 marks, so I went back to TAFE. And then I decided to go back to college, so I could have went to Brisbane, but I chose to go to Perth, Western Australia, because I hadn't been to Perth. So we drove over Perth, and I went to Netherlands College of Advanced, and came back home in '85. Did the touring in '86 with the schools. I'm a country lover, well, country rock, and so I got picked to go to on the Brian Young country show. And Brian Young, unfortunately, Brian passed away 3 or 4 years ago. And Brian is he was a bull rider, back in his day. But he knew all my uncles and my aunts, and so Brian said to them, I want to take David Hudson on the road. You think he'd come? They said he will go. So we spent 9 months on the road that year. Going to every nook and cranny in Australia, through Arnhem Land, Kakadu, Petminardi, Darwin, Kununurra, up to Turkey Creek, which is now called Warman, Halls Creek, over to Broome, down the south west coast to Meekatharra, down to Perth, down to Albany, come back up to Kalgoorlie, cross over to Tujuna, Nullarbor Plains. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good country, mate. I love West Oz. I genuinely, I think the Western Australians and the Queenslanders have a bit of a thing going on there. But something else of interest, your wife being from the Riverina area, there's a new state movement going on down there. Were you aware of that?
No.
Well, there is.
You're not been flagging for Catter here.
Oh no! I'm not a Catterite. Actually, I know Robbie quite well. I've interviewed him in the past, actually, and I kind of said to him, because, and of course, look, he's a politician. He wants people to vote for him. He's like, I hope I can rely on your vote. And I love the fact that they are, the only organisation now that's pushing for the new state. But like I said, Robbie, you make me curious anytime I'm kind of talking to him. Like I could almost, and he just laughs anytime I see him now. He goes, "Oh, the curious guy right over there." But no, look, I won't reveal precisely who I vote for, but I'm not a Catter voter. But look, you've won a couple of awards too. You've got the Tourism Ambassadors Award, the Century Medal for Services to Indigenous Affairs, a Logie, and an honorary doctorate. Mate, tell me about these awards. Like, we'll go from the top. What happened with that?
Well, I was a host of a television show called My Place, My Land, My People. And we did about 14 or 15 different communities from the tip, Torres Straits, right down to Warrana down in New South Wales. And anyway, I was a host. And it was Best Regional Documentaries for the year. And so Mark Elliott and I got this logie on behalf of NQTV back in the day, I think it was called, before it became QTV. And did the logie thing, and then did some documentaries and some just minor films and so on. Always played music because I grew up with a guitar in the house and the didgeridoo. So I've two brothers who unfortunately passed on now, but I was very heavily influenced by the style of music that they played, and that was the 60s. So I grew up on the Stones and the Beatles, and the early 70s, which is Bread and Creedence, and that's American stuff. But in Australia, I grew up on Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs.
Oh yeah.
Brian Cadd, and then going to school in the 70s. Well, of course, I was in a school band called it was called Cult, CULT, and we played all songs from Hush and Sherbert, you know, TMG, those bands from the 70s. So my music is, I have a very eclectic taste, and I listen to anything as long as it's tasteful.
Well, on that, I do want to explore the some of those issues more. But that's the thing, because I had you pegged as a country rock guy, you know, going back in your research. But of course, you know, playing with Yanni and stuff like that, he'd be very hard to categorize. And rather than
you'd consider his music to be world music, because it was a 33-piece orchestra, and fortunately for me, I was the only Aussie. But the rest of the musos were made up of, you know, like you had violin players that came from Russia, Russian cellist. You had Ming Freeman that played the keyboards, and you had Alfreda. She was a black singer, vocals. The drummer was Charlie Woods, and he's been with him since like 40 years ago. That was Yanni's old mate from college days. You've got Armenian flute players, and you've got Pedro Eustachi, who plays the duduk. And that's what I'm saying. I'm now traveling with these musicians that come from, you know, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Chile, you know, and so I'm just a little Murray follower from far north Queensland, on stage, got 3 spots, and I'm performing to like 20,000 people each night in these huge arenas. And I toured with him for 13 years.
That is amazing.
And it was a blast, of course.
I want to find out how that felt, but I'm going to play, and God willing, it should work. It's only going to be a teaser, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we can't play the whole the whole kind of thing, and we're here to talk. But I really want to play this particular part of music. This is from Rainmaker, and I'll get David to after I play it. I'll get David to kind of like tell us where it was and how it felt, you know, standing in front of all these people. So we're just going to play a quick bit of David's music. So just give me a second to set this up. All right.
Oh, there's the old fellas there. There's Charlie. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, that look. So I did that for, we go 6 weeks on the road touring. Once you finish the gig, you say goodbye to your fans, and then you get on the bus or your coach. I mean, these coaches, you got to remember, these are coaches that are fully decked out with lounge rooms, and you know, there's 10 beds for you to have your own space and put your headset on, and got your own toilets, got our own little kitchen, you know, and there's like 8 coaches. So we hit the road. We go from wherever we are. We got New York, then we go down to Philadelphia, and then, you know what I mean. We do the East Coast. We do North Carolina, South Carolina. Travel down to Florida. That's what I'm saying.
So what was it like? Like, so you're in front of 20,000 people. I noticed you were bent over there too. I mean, you know, that'd have to hurt your back, like and you're belting it out. Like, what's it like being in front of this, you know, a crowd like that? Well, you know, I mean, that's a fair bit of pressure.
That's no pressure at all. You just get on stage, you do what you have to do, and you just go with the ride. You know, the people are there to enjoy the music, and it was a great time to share. You know, we've been doing little casts, that sort of stuff, this before podcast was even heard of, you know, and there was no. This is before the proper little mobile phone thing, you know.
Yeah.
We'd all race to the hotels, get it, and ring home, you know. And Cindy being in Cairns, I'd be over wherever I was, and if the phone rang 3 times, I knew to pick it up and things like that, you know. So, but it was great to meet different people from different musical genres in the audience, and they'd come backstage, and you know, I'm very fortunate. You know, I got to meet. I got to meet a lot of people. You know,
and look,
it sounds silly to name drop, but I don't like doing that sort of stuff. But I got to meet a lot of famous people.
Wow. And look, where did you like the most? Because, you know, you did those big gigs overseas and stuff like that. You know, there was the one in China, I believe the Taj Mahal as well.
Yeah, look, we did the Taj Mahal, and that was the first Western band to ever perform with the Taj Mahal as the backdrop. You know, so we spent 10 days in Agra, and being dark skinned and black haired, you know, silver haired now.
Back in the day, mate. Back in the day.
Back in the day. You know, we were the first. See, the Taj Mahal was lit at night, first time in its 450 years, and so everybody was flying in to be part of this incredible show that was taking place at the Taj Mahal in India, and to be part of that that's memorable. And then I came back home, then I flew out again to Shanghai, went up to Beijing, and we performed in the Forbidden City.
Yeah.
And so that was another incredible experience. You know, we being in a band like that, you know, we got opportunities to go and see the Great Wall.
Yeah.
The Warriors, Shanghai, went down to Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and all those places. And then came home, put the video together, and then we now hit the road and we tour it. So I toured anywhere from Alaska, Canada, all over America, Mexico, you know, Caribbean, Puerto Rico, wherever. And it was fantastic. It was good to be part of a band. I'll say they were the Uniting Nations of musicians on stage.
That's cool.
And it was great, you know, because as I'm saying, I got to be influenced by all these other musicians, be it they came from Jamaica or Puerto Rico or whatever. And that helps with me because I play guitar and I grew up playing drums, kit drums. So I can play didgeridoo and kit drums easy because it's just rhythmic, you know.
What did you learn first?
I don't know. Realistically, I had pretty good musical roots because my mother was in the choir back in the mission days.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers played guitar, and they were part of the Cranda brass band as well. So I learned to play cornet and trumpet as a kid growing up. I learned clarinet. I learned drums and always played guitar. Didgeridoo, I've always played didgeridoo because there's always a didge in the house. And I guess it wasn't until I was 18 or 19 that I realised that I could actually use my music as a way of educating people.
Mm.
So so the didgeridoo to me was I guess my motto is have didge will travel. And it became the ancient voice of the future, which I use now because the first person to go overseas with the didgeridoo was Rolf Harris.
Yeah, Rolf. Yeah.
And Rolf Harris took an Aboriginal man who I have the greatest respect for. He's now passed on. So his name was David Blanasi. David Blanasi went to England back in the late 50s and played didgeridoo with Rolf's song called Sunrise.
Yeah.
And so, I knew Rolf Harris just because I know him. And, what's occurred now. Well, that's another story.
Yeah.
But with Jabberguy, that was an incredible period of my time because we toured all over the world promoting Australia.
Yeah, I'm actually acquainted with the Freemans. How did you meet them?
Oh, look, I met them when they first came to Australia from Goa, India, and they first came to Sydney, and friends here said, go and buy a vehicle, head north. When you get to Cairns, go up the Kuranda Range, and that's where they settled. So there was a play called The Odyssey You'll Ever See. That was about the white man coming to the Palmer River. So the Palmer River is special to me because that's where my grandmother was born. So that's Western Yallingie. So I got to meet Don and Judy Freeman because the play was about the coming of the white man to the Palmer River Gold, and I spoke to some of my rallies and said, look, we're doing a show at the Crown Amphitheatre. Would you like to be involved in this? And they said, yep. So that was probably the first time that actually seen Aboriginal people on stage, full on paint, lap, and that was probably the biggest turning point in Kuranda because later that's how we started the Jabberguy Dance Theatre. It was a theatrical show that was done traditionally, and that's why Jabberguy became very, very popular because we wanted to educate people that we're fellas who grew up in a small community. I could hunt with a spear and woomera, but I could also eat with a knife and fork. So I was able to live in two worlds. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And look, how did you meet Yanni? Like, how did that come about?
I don't know. I just was at home one time, and Mark St. Louis, the phone rang. And I said, David Hudson goes, "Oh, my name's Mark St. Louis. I'm a tour manager with a Greek composer called Yanni, John Primoloris or something. I can't think of his name because I just call him Yanni. And have you heard of him?" I said, "Oh, sure, absolutely." I said, "He actually goes with Linda Evans." Ooh. And for those that are too young to remember, she played Crystal in the television show called Dynasty.
Yes.
So Yanni and Linda were together. So he says he has your music, and he's got me to call you to ask if you're interested in touring overseas with his orchestra. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
Where are you talking about? He goes, well, we want to go to the Taj Mahal, India, and the Forbidden City, China. And I was like, I'm there. I'll support Yanni, no problem at all. So that's how that started.
Yeah.
And we became great mates, and along the way, he lives in New Orleans. No, he doesn't live in New Orleans. He lives in Florida, where Disney World is. What's that place?
Orlando. Yeah.
Orlando. So we out of the blue, we might just little email here, go there, mate. That sort of stuff, and it's great.
Mate, he took that breakup with his with Linda pretty hard. I understand, eh? But
Oh yeah, well, as anybody would, you're with someone that you love and care about.
No one.
She's a lot older than him, of course, but that's got nothing to do with it, age.
Yeah.
But she toured us with the whole India and the China trips, and
wow.
She was great because she knew a lot about Australia. She knew a lot about Aboriginal culture. She'd done a film down here with Jack Thompson, and so it was great being in around her company. She was laid back, She was a superstar.
And mate, look, let's go back to the movie. I want to dive into that because you were Bison Man. Is that correct?
Yeah, I got to play one of the characters. So, cut to the chase. The Isle of Dr. Moreau was written by H.G. Wells.
Yep.
And it's a story about a doctor who's transforming animals into humans. So he's cutting off their hoofs and he's replacing them with hands and fingers, and he's putting in, voice
boxes,
voice boxes, and so I played the bison man, so I could walk on two legs. I had 2 hoofs, you know what I mean?
I think I've got the costume here. Can I want to quickly bring it up to make sure that I've got the right one. Have you got a second? Can I share the screen? Okay. Again. So let's. Whoops. All right.
Well,
was that the one? Is that correct?
That might have been one in the. That might have been the one in the 70s. Mine was probably very different to that. However, I still played the Bison Man, and it was 2 hours of prosthetics every day.
Oh, was that hot?
Absolutely.
It must have been hot as hell.
We all lost weight because I met Richard Stanley, who was the original director, and then he got fired, and then they brought in John Frankenheimer, the American actor, the American director, and I said to Richard, I said, "Where's the film going to be shot? The location?" And he said, "Cairns." And I said, "You mean Cairns as in Cairns, Queensland, or
France?"
or Cairns as in France? He goes, "No, Cairns as in Queensland." I was like, "Seriously?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "That's where I come from." So I had all these incredible
wow
mates that I was taking them to Cranda. First time some of these blokes had ever swum in a river, like Ron Perlman, for example. Ron Perlman is Hellboy,
Yeah.
So Ron Perlman he's a New Yorker. You can't mistake Ron's voice. He got features. He played the what's the motorbike show that used to be on TV, and the bikie show.
Happy, not Happy Days.
No. The bikie show, not Happy Days. The bikie show with the,
Oh, the Wild Ones.
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy. Oh, right. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so Sons of Anarchy. So Ron Perlman played the dad. So that's the sort of bloke he was. He's a character. And so I'm taking people like Ron Perlman. I'm taking Firuza Bork.
Yeah.
She played Cat Lady, and
yeah.
I took Tamira Morrison and whoever. I just took up to my mum's place and just be as one and get out the river and swim and catch some fish, and took them to Crystal Cascades, and we went out on a private boat, went out to Reef and went out to Flynn Reef and all those places. And
that's great.
These people, you got to remember they're city slickers, so they'd never been shown a in-depth culturally educating for them, and it was great.
And never been in a river. That's hilarious. Like, seriously. But I suppose, horses of course.
Well, if you're from New York, where do you swim? You swim in what? The Hudson River.
Yeah, no, yeah. Hey, and look, that must have really upset the movie too. Like with Stanley being sacked. What was the go with that?
Oh well, Stanley got the sack, but he only got the sack only because someone like Val Kilmer took a dislike to him, and Val Kilmer was more or less fresh hot from the Batman film.
Yep.
Val didn't like him, so Val had power, and so unfortunately Richard got the sack, and we all reached out to Richard, because if it wasn't for Richard Stanley, I wouldn't have got the gig.
Yeah.
And how I got the gig, here you go. How I got the gig was Jabberguy dancers were performing at the Shaw Theatre in West End, London.
Yeah.
And we're on stage.
Yep.
And Richard Stanley was in the audience. And we're up there doing, the cassowary and kangaroo and, rolga. And he saw us doing all these imitations, and he thought to himself, if I want anybody to do the choreography, I want that bloke up there that plays a didgeridoo. So he came to Australia, and he tracked me down.
No way.
And the next minute, he's put the proposal about, would I be interested in doing the choreography for this film? I said, sure, no problem. And he was like, oh, I said, what sort of animals? He goes, oh, well, we're talking about leopards, swines, and pigs and bear. And I said, mate, these animals we don't have in Australia. And he said, well, you better start watching some
You get yourself a National Geographic, David, and you start having a look.
start watching how the body movements are, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
And as time progressed, I said, I want to roll in this. And anyway, I next minute I'm the bison man. So there was myself and the boar man and the hyena swine. We were the three baddies. So we're the ones that attacked the doctor, played by Marlon Brando.
Right. So, hey, and mate, after Stanley got sacked, I heard that he snuck back onto the set and played.
Who told you that?
I think it was Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. All right, to say that's correct. All right, as long as you read it somewhere. Yeah, everybody thought Richard Stanley had left the country, and Cindy and I were driving down Sheridan Street, and we're coming into town, and we passed this bloke, and I said, that looked like Richard Stanley. And I slowed down, and it was. And so I got in front of him, and I pulled him down, and I got out of the car, and he looked at me, and I'm going, Richard Stanley. He goes, David. I said, what are you still in care, mate? He goes, mate, he said, I've been up in Mount Carbine, living up there, just out in the bush, getting away from all this hullabaloo that I went through after being sacked. And I said, well, what are you doing? He goes, he said, I'm going to try and find some accommodation. I said, mate, you're very welcome to come to my place. And so for the rest of the 3 weeks, he stayed at my house, and we fed him and looked after him. And I said, is anybody you want to see? And he says, I'd like to catch up with all the cast members, and Norma. She's from Wardrobe and rah rah rah. So on the quiet, I saw these people. I said, my place tonight, barbecue. I got a very special guest. I got a good friend that you all should meet. So they all rock up at my house, and there's Richard Stanley. So we have a big feed, and then he says, Dave, I want to get onto the set. And I said, hey, how do you?
No way.
He says, well, next time you go to work tomorrow, can you grab one of those extras, the masks? And I said, sure. So I grabbed one of those masks, and here I am in the backyard showing Richard how to do some animal movements, so he fitted in with everybody else.
Yeah.
And so we drove down to Josephine Falls, and as we get close to security, I said, mate, put that mask on now, please. So he put the mask on, and security said, hey, good morning, Dave, how are you? I said, yeah, good. Thumbs up to Richard, because he had the mask on.
Yeah.
And we got up to the set, and I went to my caravan, my trailer, they call it, and I said, mate, you're very welcome to do whatever you want in that trailer there. Knock your socks off, make tea, drinks, whatever, sleep. There's a bed there, go for it. And we went and did our shoot for the day and came back, and the whole set's been called to a halt because Richard was under the tent eating with everybody, having lunch. And so the minute that John Frankenheimer found out this, the whole set was closed down.
Oh, no way.
And he was escorted off the site. And as he was going past, I said, mate, you don't mention my name.
I told you to keep that mask on. I told you.
I told you. Anyway, he's gone. He comes back to the house, and I said, what were you thinking? He goes, I don't care.
What are they going to do? Sack me twice? Yeah, take my birthday off me?
But John Frankenheimer, the director, he was so paranoid because he was paranoid that the set was going to be blown up, and Richard Stanley was there. Richard Stanley was as quiet as a mouse. He's very, very humble bloke.
Yeah.
But anyway,
mate, did Brando and Kilmer get on?
No, not at all. No, Brando couldn't stand Kilmer.
All right. Any Barneys?
Oh, I don't know. Val Kilmer thought he was, he was the young prince out there to impress Marlon Brando, and we'd go to sit down on our stools, and you got umbrellas and all that sort of nonsense.
Yeah.
And Val Kilmer would light up a ciggy, and Brando says, son, those things are going to kill you. And Val was like, oh, is that right? And he says, no, I'm telling you for the last time, don't blow the goddamn smoke in my face.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, so he put it out. Next time we come back, he lit up, and Marlon Brando says, son, I've already told you once, I'm not going to tell you twice, don't ever blow the smoke in my face again. And I guess that was a turning point that Brando took a dislike to Kilmer, And another funny story is we had a rap party. So the rap party included all the cast members. Brando was more or less going home within a week. And I organised the kids from Wangedi back in the day. I needed some dancing, And everybody's at the tanks that night. And I had my guitar, I had my didgeridoo, and so I called Marlon and Val Kilmer up to the stage, and I had my fire sticks. So I had Marlon Brando hold the fire sticks, and I was doing this, and then I got Val Kilmer to hold my didgeridoo, and he blew it. And then once we finished that little show there, Val Kilmer walked off with my didgeridoo, and I looked at Cindy and I gave the eye like, "There's my didge, get my didge back." And Cindy walked up to him and said, "Oh, that's David's didgeridoo. Can you give it back, please?" And he goes, "Oh, I thought it was part of the ceremony that if I blow it, I get to keep it." And she goes, "Well, not that one."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "If you want a didgeridoo, why don't you ask him? And I'm sure he'll be happy to make you one." So he came and asked me. I got my didge back, and
Give it back.
I painted it for him.
Give it here, Batman. Give me that didge.
I did. I painted a little Batman logo on the didgeridoo. I did a Guriella, little serpent, Jummer.
Mm.
And I had it at my house. And Rodney Dack, Val Dacky, he was Val Kilmer's limo driver.
Yeah.
So car driver, and so my didgeridoo, or the didgeridoo I made for Val, is in my house, and it was there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and Rodney rocks up and says, "Dave, it's going to sound pretty stupid," he said, "but I've come here to collect the didgeridoo for Val." I said, "Mate, that didgeridoo does not leave my house. If Val wants the didge, he can come and collect it himself."
Fair enough.
He goes, "Fair enough, I understand that." And he never came and got it because he expected me to take it to him. And anyway, cut to the chase. Back in the day, we had a boat, and my mate Kirk Steele, who plays the piano, was working for one of the boat companies, and he was out at Michaelmas Cay.
Yeah.
And he says, "Dave, I've got David Hirschfelder. David Hirschfelder. He's a musician from Melbourne. He used to be John Farnham's original music director, right? MD. He says he's on the boat today, and we got talking about didgeridoos. And he said, "Have you got a didgeridoo?" I said, "I sure do." So I ended up presenting Val Kilmer's Batman didgeridoo to David Hirschfelder. So David Hirschfelder has now got Val Kilmer in his house in Melbourne. And then whilst David was in town,
that's
he took
gold.
Dave up to country and made his own didgeridoo and showed him rock art, etc., and the rest is history.
Oh, mate, that is gold. That is gold.
You want to hear a song while we're here? What are we going to?
Mate, we want to hear a song.
Righto, so one moment.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am.
So this is my bush guitar. Sunrise across the waters, paradise for me. A symphony of nature's laughter is paradise for me. It's paradise for you and me in the shadows of the mountains, living by the sea. This is life, oh, the way it ought to be. Oh, when others come to dream, yeah. Home for you and me. In our rich rainforest, oh, paradise for me. Under those crystal waters, paradise for me. Paradise, oh, equally and rising in the shadows of the mountains, living and be free. This is life, oh, the way it ought to be. Oh, when others come to breathe, yeah. It's home for you and me. You come here from far away. I've lived here all of my life. My culture's been here for thousands of years. It's old and it's alive. But one thing we all cherish is the life we've come to lead. I'm talking to Matt Maloney on Northern Five. Paradise, oh, for you and me, in the shadows of the mountains, living by the sea. This is life, oh, the way it ought to be. Oh, when others come to breathe. It's home for you and me. Oh, when others come to breathe. It's home for you and me.
Yeah, right there. Hey. Live on Northern Vibe, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen it. You're going to have to dig me now. You can't leave me hanging. You got to dig me. You got to dig me. Dig me. Come on.
1 moment.
Come on, Hudson.
There are that many dudes all over the place here, so. How's that sound?
Wait, that sounds really good. It's a root. It's a root. That is so good. Mate, right there, boom. Hey, Dave, you could do that for a living, mate. Eh? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Maybe you could play that for a living and make a quid, I reckon, eh? Like, you're all right, eh?
Yeah, I should,
You should think about it, eh?
Good travel or something.
Yeah. But, mate, look, the whole circular breathing thing, that's the thing that kind of astounds me. Look, and if people want to learn, by the way, can they contact you through your website? Are you still doing lessons or anything like that, or are you?
I don't really give lessons, but I mean, sure, if anybody want to learn, I'm local, so that's what I said. I'm an easygoing person, Look, the best way to learn to play didgeridoo is just to, you get all these things. Oh, you got to stick a straw into a glass of water. Don't worry about that sort of stuff. Just do little bursts of bubbles like that. And when you're doing that, breathe in. So you go. Right? When you can do that, do it longer. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I'm getting it. I'm actually trying it. And all right, that's it. I'm doing this. I can't suck and blow at the same time.
You gotta do the raspberry. Right? When you can do that, do it longer again. Until eventually.
Yeah, look at that. He's not even turning a weird. Man, what's going on there?
So doing this, I can play ditch for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Because I'm just blowing normally, sucking air through my nose, out the mouth. That's how you should breathe correctly anyway. If you're an asthmatic, this is probably a good thing to try and learn because it teaches you to breathe correctly, out the mouth, in the nose. Because the average Joe Blow, they breathe in the mouth, out the mouth, but in the nose, out the mouth when you're running,
Yeah.
That's a do.
Right. Okay. Well,
the vocals are down in my throat, so whilst I'm vibrating my list, down there.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Mongolia for 6 months, and the guys over there do throat singing, and the technique is, yeah, mate, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And when I was looking at it, I'm going, that's ditch playing, kind of like with singing three now.
It's the same principle because you got to take air into your diaphragm, you got to take air into your lungs. Obviously, a throat voice is very different to a didgeridoo playing, but it's the same principle because you're coming from the diaphragm, the lungs, and you got to breathe. So same principle.
Right. Well, mate, we have blown an extra 20 minutes.
Okay. Well, sorry about that.
No, do not apologise. I've loved every second of it. And I can, mate, we're getting a lot of comments. We're getting a lot of comments on there. So.
And I just want to say hello to anybody out there that I know or I don't know. Hey, give me a shout out. As I said, I'm a local. Went to Sevi School, went to Cairns North, went to Cairns State High School. And I finished school back in 79, grade 12. And those are some of my memorable years. Last year was actually our 40th Cairns State High School reunion, so it was great.
Mate, did you go?
Hey?
Did you go?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it was great. I caught up with all my mates. If you want to go to a reunion, go to your reunion. You'll catch up with mates and people that you went to school with,
Yeah, haven't seen for years.
You spend 5 years of your life at school with these people, 3 years, 5 years. And then all of a sudden, school's finished, and you either see him again or you don't see him again.
Mm.
So it was a blast to catch up with all my schoolmates, and go and do it. It's fun.
Well, look, just looking at our website there. Also, I think someone's put a picture of what they believe might have been your costume on there, and there's some other people and a chap, Dave Jones, who I think knows you, is saying,
Jonesy. Yeah, I know Jonesy.
Yeah,
he's the schoolmate, Jonesy.
Yeah,
G'day, Jonesy.
he's saying g'day. So, look, we big shout out to everybody who's got on board. Thank you very much. This has been a really, really enjoyable interview. I hope Dave has enjoyed it, and I looking at the comments, I'm quite confident that a lot of our viewers have as well. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate. If anyone else wants to get in contact with me, don't hesitate to jump on board, make any comments. We always get great suggestions from the comments page, so for people to interview and things to do. And indeed, if you're actually interested in coming on Northern Vibe as a guest, please don't hesitate to contact me. The answer will probably be yes. Another quick plug before I let Dave go. Every Wednesday, my colleague David Young does an excellent podcast on Podbeam, Yes to a North Queensland State, Wednesday night between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Get the Podbeam app, have a listen. There's another really interesting online talkback show, High Humidity, with Nettie and Bunny online. Search them and tune in. As I said, Northern Vibe is evolving. We are actually going to become Cairns' premier podcast. While we're still going to be doing podcasts on the new state issue, we're really, really expanding, and this is the sort of thing that we're going to be doing. So, David, mate, show me some of those records. Show me some CDs.
Before you go there,
yep.
I'll give away 3 of these discs here, and it's a double compilation. I did what was all my didgeridoo pieces and my vocals here, but the question is, they've got to ring you. The question is, name 2 of David's where he descends from.
2 of David's what?
Where I come from, where I descend from.
Right. Okay. Tribal.
Name 2 of David's where traditional homelands are.
Traditional homelands. Okay.
2. They got to name 2, and if they get it right, you give them one of those CDs, or they can pick it up at my house. Whatever.
Okay, so you mean that geographically, or are you happy with identifying tribal?
No, they're going to say who I descend from.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Not Cairns.
Not geographically.
Traditional homelands.
Got it.
From mother's side, father's side.
No worries.
If I get it right, put it my way. I'll happily sign it for whatever. Easy.
Good on you, Dave. All right. Well, you heard it there. Jump on the website, get in contact with me. If you want to get in contact with Dave directly, you can do so through his website. His music is fantastic. Again, I'm all fanboy. I listen to his stuff all the time. There's a fair bit of stuff on YouTube as well. So I do recommend listening to those, listening to the concerts that he did. And that, Dave, that one that I played, Rain Dance, where was that geographically?
Rainmaker was.
Rainmaker.
We filmed it at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas.
So that was Vegas. All right.
Yeah.
And mate,
that footage there was, yeah.
Well, so obviously the fact that there's footage there goes to prove that what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas, because I've been looking at that over there. But look, Dave, thank you very much for coming on board. It's been fantastic. I'm already getting people sort of like on the website, and there's a couple of messages that have come up. So I suspect you're going to be giving away a couple of those CDs very shortly, mate.
Thanks, Matt. And g'day to all the mates out there, and you mates. If you see me downtown, give me a hoy. I'm an easygoing bloke, But thanks, Matt, for the chat tonight, and I've enjoyed it myself. So take it easy, folks.
Great, mate. Dave, just stay on screen and just stay with me. But everybody, thank you very much. I don't know who it's going to be next week. I'm actually spoiled for guests. So we'll announce it a little bit closer to the time. But thank you very much. Do tune in next week.